Oh, Newfoundland, an island out in far east Canada surrounded by the ocean. From crazy winds to icebergs to beautiful national parks and so many moose. Newfoundland is incredible and we can't wait to share it with you. We are in line right now waiting to get on the Newfoundland ferry from Nova Scotia. I am just making us peanut butter and honey sandwiches to have on board. It's a 7-hour long ferry to the western part of Newfoundland. You can take like a 16-hour one that goes to the eastern part to St. John's, but it's too early in the season, so that one's not running just yet. So we're taking the shorter daytime one, and then we're going to drive across Newfoundland. So I'm kind of excited. This is the longest ferry I've ever been on. It's the first boat ride that Toaster is ever going to go on, and we booked a cabin so that we could have Toaster in the room. They have some pet friendly cabins. So yeah, we're just packing up our things because our van will be staying, I'm assuming, down below. We will be going to our cabin, and then Kent and I are going to take turns staying with Toaster in the room, since then the pets cannot be alone and we don't want him to be anxious anyways. Check it out. Look at our room. We got 4 beds that we're not going to need.
Pretty cool, though. What is
and
this? Whoa.
Little reading light. Let's see the view. We haven't started moving yet, but soon. And we have the world's tiniest little desk. What do you think, buddy? I've got Toaster set up with all of his toys and things, and we have about an hour. No, I don't even think quite an hour, maybe like 45 minutes until we actually leave, and then we're on here, like I said earlier, for 7 hours. So I'm actually going to film a podcast while we're in here, while we are moving. I think that'll be so cool. It might be my only opportunity to ever film a podcast on a boat, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And then I want to kind of explore. There's some really great like seating where you can just sit and see the view. I think there are 2 restaurants here on the boat. There's a bar, which it's daytime, so probably not going to use that, but I do think I might like try to find the restaurant and get a coffee and sit and like listen to my audiobook for a little bit at some point after I get some work done. We've also got a bathroom right here, which, oh, actually it's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. That's pretty nice for a ship. We just got to our spot for the night and we picked up some pizza that we're gonna try. Apparently it's kind of a Maritimes thing to get garlic fingers. So we got honey garlic fingers. And then there's this kind of, sauce called something with a D. Donair sauce, maybe? And it looks delicious. So we're gonna eat that and go to bed because it's late.
Oh.
Yummy, yum. We started the next morning at a lovely little coffee shop. One of my favorite things about traveling is getting to try so many different coffee places and get some delicious treats. Something both Kent and I could not stop saying when we arrived in Newfoundland is just how blue the water was. Everything was so blue, everything was so bright. I think we were really lucky to get absolutely stunning weather while we were here. You wanna go on a hike? You wanna go walk on the beach? Come on, let's go walk on the beach. Come on. Okay, we're just gonna do this first part here. The first of many hikes in this video, we are at Sandy Cove Beach. This honestly might have been a little too difficult of a hike for us to pick for starting back out hiking because we haven't really done much since last summer. One of the things that we really discovered on our first big trip as we did 50 states is that we really enjoy hiking. And something that makes me so happy about a lot of the parks here in Canada is that dogs are often allowed on the trail, and Toaster is more than happy to come with us. With Toaster properly exhausted and taking a nap in the van, Kent and I decided to head out on a second hike, just the two of us. And it's the next day and we're doing more hiking. Terra Nova National Park is just super stunning. It's a massive park, and so there were so many different areas for us to go to. So the distance driving between these sometimes would be an hour or more. Everywhere we went, there were signs about moose and sometimes bears, but very fortunately, we did not see any while hiking, but we did see both a moose and a bear from the road. Something you'll see a lot of if you're doing national parks here in Canada, and honestly even outside of the park, are these two Adirondack chairs, always red, set up in a scenic area. The national park system kind of started this, but then Canada just kind of picked up on it. So we'd even see sometimes two red Adirondack chairs at people's houses. I think we've done enough outdoorsy stuff for now. Let's head to our first yarn store. This is Twin Knit Yarn Boutique in Clarenville, Newfoundland. They had a whole pegboard wall of Canadian dyers, which I love to see. And we even found out about a Newfoundland dyer, Windswept Fibres. We're actually gonna get to meet the dyer of Windswept Fibres in just a little bit, but I didn't know that at this point. I had a lot of fun looking through their colorways though and seeing all of the different Newfoundland references that we were just starting to learn at the beginning of this trip. You may be wondering what all of these shorter strands of yarn are, kind of hung up in different colors. These are for rug hooking. There is a really large rug hooking community here in Newfoundland, and a lot of the yarns at Twin Knits are there to support the rug hookers. We have driven up to this town thanks to the recommendation of some people in the yarn store because apparently there's an iceberg here. Elliston to go to the puffin viewing site. From the road, we really weren't sure what to expect. All we knew is no dogs were allowed, which is fair because obviously having a dog there could disrupt the birds. But the puffins migrate here every single year, and so they know that they will be able to find puffins in this spot. Once we walked out a little ways, you come to kind of another moor, or I don't know, moor is not the right word, but another kind of like cliff area that you couldn't walk to. It was across the water a little bit, but you could see all of the puffins, which was really exciting. We've seen puffins before in Alaska, but they were at a really far distance. And Kent was smart. He brought his binoculars, so we were able to see them really, really well. While we're traveling, I get to enjoy going to lots of different yarn stores and to try yarns from lots of different dyers, which is so fun for me, but a lot of people will ask, what does Kent get to do while you're traveling? One of the things that he really likes to do is go to breweries and try local beers. So we're ending the night here at Port Rexton Brewing Co. Kent went inside and got a flight, and I stayed outside with Toaster. They had a little grilled cheese place attached to it. I ended up getting Newfoundland blueberry jam with cheddar, and it was so good. We're off to explore St. John's. St. John's is the largest city and the capital of Newfoundland, with a population of about 114,000. Now, these houses that we're passing, you're gonna see depicted in a lot of different ways, but they call them jelly bean houses. There's not like a specific road that has these, they're just kind of everywhere in town. Kent had quite the list of restaurants and food to try while we were in St. John's. And first up is the Duke of Duckworth, where we were told you have to try the fish and chips. Their fried fish is made with cod fillets, and it was definitely the best I've ever had. While we were sitting at lunch, I Googled yarn stores in St. John's and found out that Windswept Fibres has a place here. It's in this really cool spot called the Artisan Loft where there are other makers as well. So we went in to check it out, and to our great delight, the owner Pam was there and we got to meet her. As I mentioned earlier, there are lots of other places inside the Artisan Loft, like this chocolate place. We tried lots of yummy and delicious chocolates and ended up going home with a few as well. Next up on our tourist list was Signal Hill. We grabbed a coffee, walked up to the top, and you could see a beautiful view of the city. Our last stop of the day was a brewery for Kent to try some more beer, and then we headed home for an early night. The next morning we headed to our final yarn store here in Newfoundland, Wool Trends. This store is in an old house, and it's just so fun to go room to room and see what each room has in store. They carried a ton of Briggs & Little, which is a New Brunswick yarn that actually we will eventually get to tour and share with you, so stay tuned for that coming up in just a few weeks. But they also carried tons of other brands, rug hooking things, needle felting stuff, anything for your crafting needs. We just happened to catch them on a day where they were dyeing up some of their own yarn, so they let us take a little sneak peek of what's coming. Unfortunately, nothing was ready yet for us to get. We couldn't go to Newfoundland and not go to the most easterly point. This is the most easterly point in Newfoundland, of course, but also in Canada. And I guess by default in North America too, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. headed back into St. John's for one more evening. Kent had something special planned. He was getting screeched in. We'll get to that in just a minute. But while we were walking around, I found this store that carries all hand-knitted items. The things in here, from gorgeous cabled sweaters to cute little things for babies to socks to mittens, it was incredible. And they even had this map where all of their knitters live that contribute items to the store. One of the only ways to get alone time when we're traveling is to leave the van and do separate things. So I ended up going to this really cute new coffee shop, getting a coffee and a pastry, and Kent went to search out some beer. And then we met back up later for a very special ceremony. In late May, early June, the ferries to Newfoundland are only running to the western side. So when we came in, we were in the far west part of Newfoundland, and St. John's is in the far east part. So we actually have a very long journey to get back to our ferry in the western side. I think around 7 hours of driving, but we were gonna split it up and have a nice stop at another national park in between. So before we head to Gros Morne, we went to the farmer's market here in St. John's. There were so many different booths with handmade items, especially crochet, so I had to grab a couple of things. One of our first stops on the way back was Twillingate. It's up at the top of maybe a peninsula would be the right word, but it's a really great place to see icebergs. We stopped for breakfast at this really cute place, and we wanted to try this Canadian dish. It's called Toutons, and it's a fried dough, and you can put different things on it. It came with either molasses or syrup, and so I had it with molasses, and it was quite good. Even though this was a little bit out of our way to come to Twillingate, it was so worth it because we got to see icebergs up super close. And the one we're looking at now actually broke apart while we were there. We didn't see it directly. We were walking away and we heard this really loud noise. And when we looked back over, the two pieces of the iceberg had separated. So it was just a super cool experience. Another place we really wanted to visit was Gander. And you might have heard of Gander because of 9/11. So there's an airport here in Gander, and planes used to have to stop here and refuel when coming from Europe before continuing on their journey. Now that ended long ago with the advent of the jet plane, but on 9/11,
a ton of planes, actually 38 planes, were redirected here to Gander because they had that really large airport. Almost 7,000 passengers were redirected here and had to stay for several days. At that time, Gander only had a population of around 10,000, so having all of these planes come in nearly doubled their population. But they are the nicest people, took everyone in, took care of them, and you may have even seen the musical Come From Away that portrays this whole scene. One last meal to try before leaving Gander, and that is Jig's dinner. It's basically just this meal that can be all kind of boiled in one pot. So the main part of it is the salted beef, and then there's these vegetables. I got a carrot, cabbage, this kind of thing that's called, I think like something peas. I don't know, it was really good. I really liked it. And then a whole potato. And then Kent also got his as a Sunday dinner, which meant that he had beef and turkey. And then he had a little loaf of partridge berry. Our last spot to stay in Newfoundland is Rocky Harbor, which brings us right into Grossmorn National Park. On our first day in Grossmorn, we had a boat tour, and this boat took us out on the lake to see all these incredible rock formations that are so old. I wish I could tell you more specifics, but I can't remember all the details. But the boat tour was incredible because they told us all about it, all about the history, all about how it was formed, and then we saw the most epic waterfalls. It was gorgeous. And if you are a serious hiker, you can actually take a boat out to be dropped off and hike. There's just several different levels of hikes that you can do. I think if we had more time, or if we go back here, there are some day hikes that you can do. But there are also some really intense overnight hikes, which I know we're not ready for yet, but would be so cool to do one day. So I think I said that the other yarn store we went to was the last yarn store, but just kidding, I lied. We went to one more yarn store in Newfoundland. This is Skivvers Fibre Studio and Woolcraft in Cowhead. There are too many cool things to tell you about this store, so let's just do them one at a time. Owner Veronica is a yarn dyer and uses both natural and chemical dyes. But the very cool thing about her natural dyes is she grows some of them herself. So there's these planters in front of the store that will be planted soon. Actually, we just caught her I think within the first week of her opening for the season. So she was telling us she was about to get started planting things like marigolds and indigo. Now for what I feel like is the coolest part. So this store is in a house, but not just any house. It's actually Veronica's aunt's house. And when they were cleaning out the house to turn it into a yarn store, they found her aunt's old tea set. And Veronica created a yarn dyed after this teacup, which I just think is the most special thing. After a big day of being on the boat and going to a yarn store, we headed back to Rocky Harbor to have some seafood and rest up for hiking the next day. We started the day by hiking Tablelands, and Toaster was able to come along with us. The coolest part about this landscape is it's actually the Earth's exposed mantle, and from what I understand, it's one of the few places that you can actually walk on the Earth's mantle. I am not a geologist. I will admit I don't know a ton about rocks, but I think this is a really rare thing to see and something we are very excited to go look at. After that, we drove a little ways, let Toaster nap in the car, and Kent and I did Green Gardens, which was one of the hardest hikes that I think I've ever done. I don't know if it was just because we'd already hiked about 2 miles that day, and we're just tired from everything, but there was quite a lot of elevation change that I was not prepared for. So you start in kind of a rocky area, then it quickly gets to be more evergreen and trees. You're going up and down and over the hills, and then you start descending and you actually make it all the way to the beach. Apparently there was a sea cave somewhere, but we couldn't seem to find it. We kept trying to kind of climb around on the rocks, but as soon as they got wet or slippery in any way, we turned ourselves right around because we know we do not want to get hurt or stuck. We kept seeing this fluffy stuff in the grass, and I kept saying to Kent, oh my gosh, this looks like wool. It looks like wool coming off of a sheep, something I could spin, and he kept trying to lead us down to these paths that weren't the main trail. I'm like, Kent, what are we doing? And then all of a sudden we got to this bush where there was the narrowest area to go through, and there was just this wool-like stuff all up against the sides. And I'm like, it looks like a sheep went through here and rubbed up all against it and got all of its wool off. Anyway, we went through the bush and we came out into a meadow, and there were no sheep, unfortunately. So apparently there are sheep that move through these meadows every single year, and we must have just missed them because their wool was everywhere.
Now we can see you. What did you get?
I got jams.
Okay, made here.
Yep. I got fancy biscuits and assortment.
Oh my gosh.
And I got pineapple crush.
Sadly, our time in Newfoundland has come to a close. It was time for us to get back on the ferry and head back to Nova Scotia, which we do have a lot of fun stuff coming up there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.